Introducing first from Little Rock, Arkansas. He weighed in at 214 pounds. He is the bronzed one, Lennox Norris.
And I don't know. I just don't know what's going on with Lennox Norris. I mean, he does everything he can to get the fans to like him, and the response is meager at best. I don't understand what they don't see in this guy, but nevertheless, he's been getting quite frustrated over there.
Well, I saw him out here in intermission, kissing babies, hugging children, whatever you want to call it.
And everybody walked right past him to Appollo. Ironically, his opponent in this particular match.
Well, this should be a good scientific bout.
Both men, of course, in this match, very athletic. I mean, they are both veterans. You get polish from these guys. And, of course, as soon as David Lee finishes his introduction, I know you know Appollo very well. I will let you take the floor, sir.
From Buffalo, New York. He weighed in at 218 pounds. He is Poison Appollo Starr.
Poison Appollo Starr, a man you have had a couple run-ins with.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. A lot of people don't know this. When Poison Appollo Starr first moved to Indianapolis, his very second match ever was in a promotion I ran.
This match is 1 fall with a 20-minute time limit. Your referee, Max Recon.
So I've been around and known Appollo Starr since he was a young man, and now he's a veteran before us.
And how much has Appollo shifted throughout the years? How much have you seen him improve with his veteran's instinct?
Well, I've not only seen him improve, I've seen him change the very way he wrestles. When I first met Appollo Starr, he was training with American Kickboxer in the Rage Dojo. I saw Appollo Starr busting out moonsaults.
Yeah.
Now he's more of a grappler, more of a mat technician, and somebody who can throw hands.
Yeah, and I think as the veteran mindset pulls in, as the years start to get to you here, as Appollo works in a headlock there, you have got to be ever wary of what the business calls your bump card. How many times can you hit the mat before you just can't hit it anymore?
Well, and that's the key, being aware of that. And I'm not going to say taking shortcuts because that's not what he's doing, but knowing how to avoid that. I've seen Appollo Starr work out with guys like Chad Collier, Nigel McGuinness, guys who can show you the technical side of this business and how to work through a hold without endangering yourself.
And you see Appollo Starr there avoiding the technical prowess of Lennox Norris, and that is exactly what you're talking about. He has learned the technical side of the business, and don't get me wrong, he will still bust out some missile drop kicks and what have you, an elbow drop every once in a while when he feels like he needs it, in particular against Zodiac, taking down somebody as big as Zodiac. But in a match here against Lennox, you've got to figure he's going to try to out-wrestle him. I think it's a smart move.
I think the ability to out-wrestle is there with a nice cravat, a la Nigel McGuinness. But I'm not real well-versed on Lennox Norris. I mean, I've seen a couple of his Uncle Chuck's movies and everything, but I don't know a lot about this athlete.
Well, Lennox Norris is about a 10, 12-year veteran of the business. He has wrestled in multiple continents. We're not talking multiple countries. He did a tour of South Africa a few years ago. Beautiful fireman's carry takeover there from Appollo Starr, and these two guys are moving. That's what you get with Lennox, polish. You get a very, very nice style. He calls himself the bronzed one, and that is something that he takes to heart, not only in his skin color, but in making sure that everything he does can be framed and made into a statue.
Well, as Appollo goes through a little bit of that Ali shuffle, you can see the frustration on Lennox Norris's face. I don't think he's used to being out-wrestled.
No, definitely not. And these two guys are in very similar positions. They are veterans, they are technical wrestlers, and the biggest thing that they all have in common, they have both lost in Emerge Championship matches to one Zodiac. And they both have something to prove right here, right now in Columbus, Indiana, in front of a crowd of at least 1,000 strong.
I think it's actually 1,007. But Lennox Norris is using a very European style, I see. And I wonder if maybe that's part of what's keeping him from getting to that upper echelon with the fans in Emerge. It's foreign to them. They don't know how to take it.
Yeah, definitely true. He's not the kind of guy like your Cole Radrick or your Sage Phillip that jumps around and does everything like that. He wants to out-wrestle you. A bit of a throwback, his style. The European style is a lot closer to the catch-as-catch-can that was used early on in this business. And Apollo Starr, while that's not necessarily his style so much, as just his default, he can do it with the best of them if you tempt him.
Well, I happen to know for a fact Apollo Starr has studied tapes of Johnny Saint, Billy Robinson, Mark Rollerball Rocco.
As any wrestler should.
Agreed, but a lot of these younger athletes, the Sage Phillips would understand who I'm talking about, but a Cole Radrick would look at me and go, who? And that's just sad, because those are the guys that pioneered what these young men do today.
And if you learn what they did, you can out-wrestle anybody.
You have to know your history before you can see the future.
And that's what these two men are doing. We have not seen a lot of flash. We have not seen a lot of fisticuffs. These two guys are competing to see who is the better grappler. And you've got to figure one way or another, we're going to find out. Lennox Norris, very clean style. Apollo Starr, very clean style.
I don't know about that, because you just saw Apollo throw a short headbutt in there, breaking the hold, and then a forearm to the back, and
sunset
nice.
Flip over there, 1, 2 count only. Lennox rather able to roll out of it. Small package from Apollo, 2 count there. Lennox Norris needs to get on the upper hand, and he did. And we were talking just a second ago about the frustration that builds when you can't get ahead, and that is exactly what has happened, I believe, here. I feel like this match is about to shift.
Well, I don't know if you noticed it a little bit. Lennox Norris shaking his head and everything, and the frustration's wearing on him. He's not used to this, and that's taking a little bit of the wind out of his sails, so to speak. Indecision is what I see. He doesn't know if he wants to keep to a catch-as-catch-stand style or just straight out slap a guy.
Yeah, and I think that is the shift we've been seeing in Lennox Norris as a person here lately. I mean, he seems to be getting very, the word we keep using is frustrated. And right now, you can see, the crowd is favoring Apollo. And that, I think, is starting to get to Lennox a little bit.
Well, Apollo's always had more personality than most people you're going to see in this business, and a crowd will follow them. I used to liken Apollo's, beautiful drop kick. But I used to liken Apollo's personality, his id, so to speak, to Clubber Lang in Rocky III. He was an angry man, and this is not a racial comment, but he was an angry man who was hungry. But is that hunger still there?
No, definitely, and I think the hunger is still there because he was on top of Emerge when we went into our hiatus period, and he went out as the Emerge champion. And he was not able to recapture that. He lost in the finals against guess who? Zodiac. The next month, he got his shot again because he deserves one, and he lost against guess who? Zodiac.
You know Zodiac loves tacos, right?
I know he adores tacos.
2 count, and once again, Lennox Norris getting frustrated with the referee. Apparently, and in my opinion, he's blaming everybody but himself here. He's getting frustrated with the referee.
And that's the thing about Lennox Norris. I think Lennox Norris perhaps needs to change. Lennox Norris, we were talking earlier about Anthony Lee lacking that special something, that special little bit of aggression, and I think Lennox is starting to find it in this match. A beautiful, beautiful knee drop there, taking Apollo down to the mat.
The angrier he's getting, the higher the impact of the moves he's using. And that worries me for Apollo Starr.
Because the longer Apollo Starr stays down.
Because Apollo Starr prepared for a match where he would be chain wrestling. He would be going from hold to hold. And now an angry Lennox Norris is a man who's not just going to break you down, he's going to try and break you.
I think it's clear that both men's strategies are completely out the window at this particular point in time.
We're outside. Where do you see a window?
At one of these lovely businesses. Well, it seems like both men here are in kind of similar positioning as they're standing on relatively equal ground. I would say Lennox has the upper hand right now, but you never know when Apollo's going to dish out a couple strikes and here we go. Big enziguri there, and Appollo is right back in this thing. Both men now on very equal ground.
You know, nobody's going to like to hear me say this, but I would like to see these gentlemen go through a 30-minute Ironman match.
Yeah, no, they seem like the kind of people who would, but would it matter? It seems like we might need 30 minutes in order to get this match to its conclusion anyway. Shoot.
I'm just saying I don't want to see a time limit. I want to see these guys go until they can't go anymore, because the change in strategy for Lennox Norris is really exciting me. Don't look at me that way. And it could really jumpstart his career.
But instead of focusing on that, Lennox Norris looks at us and shakes his head. And I understand, it's very frustrating when you can't put somebody away, but you've got to stay right on them if you want to win this match.
Stop being the nice guy and go for the win.
Well, we might have to see Lennox resort to that at some point. Irish whip now, gets reversed by Appollo. Off into the ropes he goes. Catches a kick and hits him with a back elbow. Snapmare over. Appollo off into the corner, catches him with a straight kick directly to the side of the face.
And another thing to worry about with Apollo Starr is he is a phenomenal submission wrestler.
Yes. It's hard to study those tapes you were talking about earlier and not pick up a submission or two.
Look up Billy Robinson Catch as Catch Can on YouTube. Not actual pro wrestling, but the actual submission style that he was well versed in, and you'll learn something.
Nice back suplex there from Apollo Starr, and Lennox is reeling.
You know, actually, that's something I'm surprised. I have not seen a lot of suplexes in this match.
No, definitely not, but both men having to adapt on the fly, figure out anything they can to win this thing. Oh, and Lennox rolling through, beautifully done. Now waiting on Apollo, side kick, and Poison is reeling. 2 count.
He just barely sneaked out there, but Lennox Norris is getting visibly frustrated, visibly
And why
angry.
don't you stand up and stomp him? Why don't you stand up and apply a hold?
Because that's not what in his makeup. Getting up and stomping the man when he's down is new to him, and I don't know if he's got it in him.
Well, we'll have to see if he's getting it in him, because it's not looking like any of Lennox's regular moves are putting Apollo away, but this might be the big one here, waiting for Apollo almost as a sitting duck. Lennox now waiting for him to stand up, and he gets caught. Drop toe hold, and there come the submission you were talking. Oh no, rolls him up. 3 count.
Surprise victory by Poison Apollo Starr.
And just like that, it's over. And the look.
Will we see the customary handshake after a match?
Lennox Norris beside himself. And how ironic, all the twists and turns that this match took.
If you look at Lennox Norris, look at his arms. The veins are bulging throughout his forearms and his head. His blood pressure is up. His heart rate is going. He is shaking as we speak.
Ended up being a roll-up that did it. Pinning combination, the most technical of maneuvers.
I think I first saw that combination in the movie Vision Quest.
And look at Lennox.
Maybe for the last time. I mean, these spots in this company are hard to come by.
Looks like mutual respect here between the two men. Both men put on one heck of a fight.
That really wasn't a fight. That was a competition. That was a contest.
That was the most beautiful, one of the most beautiful matches in Emerge history. And oh, Lennox doesn't want the handshake now.
Visible sign of disrespect by Lennox Norris to poison Appollo Starr. And if you know Appollo Starr, respect is important.
Yes. As the word respect comes out of his mouth, and Lennox Norris, I think he's talked some sense into him. And you've got to identify with Lennox Norris. Well, either way, Lennox is going home without his hand raised, and Appollo is going out on top.
I hate to see it. I hate to see a finely tuned athlete give up like that.